We will resist to the bitter end any measure or any movement which would have a tendency to bring about social equality and the intermingling and amalgamation of the races in our states. Well, with that bigoted pronouncement, Senator Richard Russell of Georgia declared war on the Civil Rights Bill of 1964. Hello, I'm Cameron Turner. 19 segregationist senators, 1 Republican, and 18 Southern Democrats filibustered for 54 days in an effort to kill the Civil Rights Bill on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia, a former Ku Klux Klan member, personally spent 14 hours speaking out against the Civil Rights Bill. And Strom Thurmond of South Carolina, who had filibustered against a 1957 Civil Rights Bill for 24 hours, declared that the 1964 legislation was unconstitutional, unnecessary, unwise, and beyond the realm of reason. But the unsuccessful stonewalling by these pro-Jim Crow lawmakers was not the only impediment to federal civil rights legislation. The inaction of seemingly supportive liberals was also a roadblock. During his 1960 campaign for the White House, John F. Kennedy appealed to African American voters, but for the first 2 years or more of his administration, President Kennedy was largely mute on matters of race. Now, Kennedy sent federal marshals to defend the Freedom Riders, but that was only after he criticized those peaceful protesters and called for an end to the Freedom Rides. And Kennedy only reluctantly dispatched federal troops to calm the white mobs who rioted after James Meredith integrated the University of Mississippi. Slow action like this earned President Kennedy strong criticism from civil rights leaders, including the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
President Kennedy has done some significant things in civil rights, but at the same time, I must say that President Kennedy hadn't done enough, and we must remind him that we elected him.
It wasn't until the summer of 1963 that President Kennedy finally took his strong stand in support of civil rights. Now, this was after Birmingham Public Safety Commissioner Bull Connor attacked nonviolent civil rights marchers with fire hoses and police dogs. And it was after Alabama Governor George Wallace physically blocked the doorway of the University of Alabama to prevent black students Vivian Malone and James Hood from enrolling there. On June 11, 1963, the same day that federal troops removed Governor Wallace from the doorway, President Kennedy went on national television to introduce the Civil Rights Bill and to challenge America's conscience.
We preach freedom around the world, and we mean it. And we cherish our freedom here at home. But are we to say to the world, and much more importantly, to each other, that this is a land of the free, except for the Negroes, that we have no second-class citizens, except Negroes, that we have no class or caste system, no ghettos, no master race, except with respect to Negroes. Now the time has come for this nation to fulfill its promise.
A year later, on July 2nd, 1964, as President Lyndon Johnson prepared to sign the Civil Rights Act into law, he reminded Americans of their moral and historic obligations. And he made it clear that, like it or not, a new day was dawning.
We believe that all men are entitled to the blessings of liberty. Yet millions are being deprived of those blessings. Not because of their own failures, but because of the color of their skin. The reasons are deeply embedded in history and tradition and the nature of man. But it cannot continue. Our Constitution, the foundation of our republic, forbids it. The principles of our freedom forbid it. Morality forbids it. And the law I will sign tonight forbids it.
Now, it took entirely too much suffering, too much death to force the federal government to enact the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But the unyielding demands for freedom by civil rights activists throughout the South and across the nation made it impossible for Washington to skirt the issue. And ultimately, Presidents Kennedy and Johnson took a brave stand on the side of right, and they led the way for passage of a law that changed our nation. Let us all commit ourselves to preserving and protecting those changes for the good of all Americans. Thank you for listening. I'm Cameron Turner. That's my 2 cents.